tonight, as you know, on the program we have the great Larry Hamm is going to be speaking with us. He's on his way here, and he's going to give the keynote address to you. I want to let you know some of the people involved in making this week-long citywide Paterson, New Jersey tradition happen, and that's the New Family Foundation. Let's give them a hand. New Family. I'm going to introduce the good folks to you if they would stand and be recognized. If it's okay with you guys, if you don't want to stand, that's all right. I don't want to have you up and down so much. But we have the Moody's right here. You know, Chief Tambor Moody. Right. And we have Janet McDaniel, my mom. Let's give her My mom is the treasurer of the organization. Then we have Tamar Hampton, secretaries. We have the VP right here, Miss Talina Queen. Let's give her and my big brother right here, little brother Kwanza. So I call him little brother. That's little boy right there. Kwan, and we got Jimmy. Jimmy.
Good evening. I just want to know, usually before libations, it's on the earth. We're not having the earth yet, but the object for libations on the earth is grow the fruit. So we're going to have the fruit, so we'll pour on the fruit. All right.
And Jameson family, what's the good news?
Umoja.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of explanation about the libation. The libation ceremony is done in praise and honor of the collective commitment of the work and struggle of our ancestors. It is both instructive and inspirational, as well as mandatory within the framework of our value system. For it is they, our forefathers and foremothers, who through their love, labor, and struggle laid the foundation for us, pushed our lives and history forward, and gave us basic principles by which we could live our lives in strength, dignity, brotherhood, and sisterhood. Pouring libation and making a libation statement is both an honorific assertion and a call to carry on the struggle and the work that our ancestors began. It is more clearly defined as a recognition and respect of the contribution of those that came before us, of our history and the models it offers us to emulate.
As we pour the libations, after each statement, got more and plenty. All right, good. My wife Kimata, when she poured, I want you to say Harambe. Harambe is a Swahili word for let's all pull together. At the end, the seventh pouring, we want you to say Harambe, and it's Harambe 7 times, and hold the last one. So after the last one is Harambe, Harambe 7 times. On the last one, hold it until you fall out. See who got the biggest win.
And I will be pouring to the 4 corners of the earth, north, south, east, and west.
Our fathers and mothers came here, lived, loved, struggled, and built here. At this place, their love and labor rose rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them then, who gave so much, we give in return. On this very same soil, we will sow our seeds and build and move in unity and strength. Here too, we will continue their struggle for liberation and a higher level of human life. May our eyes be the eagle, our strength be the elephant, and the boldness of our life be like the lion. And may we remember and honor our ancestors and the legacy they left for us as long as the sun shines and the water flows. For our people everywhere then, Harambe, for Shaka, Samari, Nzinga, and all the others, known and unknown, who defended our ancestral land, history, and humanity from alien invaders. Harambe! For Garvey, Muhammad, Malcolm and King, Harriet, Fannie Lou, Sojourner, Bethune, and Nat Turner, and all the others who dared to define, defend, and develop our interests as a people. Harambe! For our children and the fuller and freer lives they will live because we struggle. Harambe! For Kawaida and Nguzo Saba, the new system of views and values which gives us identity, purpose, and direction to our lives. Harambe! For the new world we struggle to build. Harambe! And for the continuing struggle through which we will inevitably rescue and reconstruct our history and humanity in our own image and according to our own needs. Harambe! 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 Tradition of Kwanza, we light candles and always 7 days, so we do one a night. So our young sister can assist us. We always start with the black one, stands for unity. And we light one each day. First, to the left for the red, to signify struggle. Back to the green signifies growth. So.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Ashana Willis, and today is the first day of Kwanza. On the first day of Kwanza, we celebrate Umoja. Umoja means unity. Unity within our community, within our family, within our race, and within our people. Now join together as we celebrate togetherness, as we celebrate our skin, as we celebrate Umoja. Dum-dum. Loser. Okay. And where are you? Get on my face. Anyway. Can y'all be quiet? We at church. We gotta get started. Turn around. Face the people. What are you doing? It's Kwanzaa. Shut up. We about to start. Shut up, Miss P. Miss P. What's up? Hi, Miss P. I like your shirt. What? Your blazer look nice.
Thank you.
What are you doing?
So, where are you guys going?
Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard you guys screaming. I heard you all the way out the
We
door.
was what?
Oh no, we were just singing.
Excuse me?
You wasn't screaming.
You were screaming.
No.
And since you want to be screaming, what were you screaming about?
We wasn't screaming. We was having a nice conversation.
Really? About what?
About Kwanzaa.
Oh, okay. So about what? What's Kwanzaa? What is this Kwanzaa? What's that?
It's like an African Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah, it's 7 days long.
7 days. And what's today?
It's Umoja.
What's that? What?
Umoja. Umoja.
What?
Umoja.
Mine.
I'm serious.
Umoja?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is Umoja? What does
It
that mean?
means unity.
Unity.
Yeah, it's like teams to be heard. When we come together and we eat together, we pray together, we eat together. It's like a family. It's like everybody from a different walk of life.
Okay, yeah, so not bad, right? Not bad. Cabernet, you, we're talking to, really loud. Yeah, don't try that in this.
What you talking about?
Tell me what unity means. What does unity mean?
Unity means like a group of people coming together
Yeah.
in one. And
What do they do together? Good things, bad things, what?
good things,
Like what?
like things to be done.
Oh, okay, that shuts me up. All right. Okay, you good, you good, you good. What are you guys doing over there?
Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
What's up, Micaiah? That smile, right? Gets you out of trouble all the time. Not this time. Tell me.
We were talking about unity,
Yeah?
coming together as one, like things to be heard, we coming together.
God just hitting me with this seems to be heard stuff, right? What do you do?
We get together and decide the thing.
Really? What you say about Umoja was what?
Unity.
Oh, okay. Just checking, because, you know, you guys said I was talking about it. All right, you off the hook. She's good, right? All right. Yvonne,
Hey.
loud and little, right? Yeah?
Umoja is unity,
Uh-huh.
and unity is change. And when we come to Taste to Be Heard, some of us we have negativity, and we try to change our negative way into a positive.
All right, not bad. So, you know, I think they did pretty well, right? They were really talking about unity a little bit. They can be off the hook? Yeah. So I think unity is like everybody here getting together. And I just feel like, you know, in our community, we need to do more of this so that we can keep the kids off the street, you know. And even if they're on the street, at least they know what community and unity is, that we love them, we smile at them, you know, all those type of things. Is that right? That fit?
Yes.
All right, we're good there, right?
No,
All right,
wait, Miss B.
What?
We really were talking about Kwanzaa.
Oh, okay. Oh, what's this?
It's different languages that
Wait,
mean
what's that? I can't see it. Let me try.
Take it off, man. We're talking off the hook. What is going on?
What's this?
It's
This
different
doesn't look
languages
like-
that mean unity.
Oh, okay, tell me. What's
In
that?
Bengali, unity means
Ikata. All right.
English means,
Okay.
Spanish means
Unidad. Did y'all hear that? She was kind of low. Unidad. Say that one again.
Ikat.
Okay.
And for Swahili, I would like you all to stand with me and say on the count of 3.
Can everybody stand?
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
We recognized already different aspects of who we are as a people. Who were those people? What groups of people did we just recognize so far? Anybody want to mention? What did you notice? You mentioned the children, right? Teens, the elders. Who else? Ancestors. With Kwanzaa, it reminds us to recognize our entire family, our collective family. That includes those who have passed. So we always need to keep that in mind. When we do some of our holidays, they're great. You know, I don't know if you guys practice, what's one of the holidays? What's the Columbus do? East, what is it? Well, not Columbus did Thanksgiving. That's what I'm trying to remember. I don't do that holiday, so I forget them. But you know, some people do, and it's a good time. You know, you get together, you have some food. You probably, I don't know if you remember the history of Columbus when you do that holiday, but that might not be the greatest thing to remember. But it's important to remember what you're celebrating, because if you are just celebrating something willy-nilly, then you are supporting something that you might not be supportive of in your mind, right? But when you practice Kwanzaa, it's important for you to recognize the things that we are celebrating. We are celebrating our past. We're celebrating our future. We're celebrating our present. All of those things, including we're celebrating and giving respect to the earth, the planet. Who does that? Some people don't do that. Some people feel like it's okay to just do whatever you want to the planet. Destroy it. What is that going to say for our future? They have to figure something else out if we destroy our planet. So we recognize our planet when we celebrate Kwanzaa. We recognize the labor, the first fruits. That's what Kwanzaa means, the first fruits of the harvest. We're recognizing our labor. We're recognizing the earth and what it brings to us. We're also recognizing education.
First of all, I want to thank Sister Nancy, Grier for contacting me and asking me to be a part of the first program of the Umoja, and I want to congratulate the new family foundation for coming together and putting a schedule together of various activities to educate the community and celebrate this season of Kwanzaa. My task, right now is to give some unity awards away to the community, and I'm a little cold right now. Hope a little, they say we draw heat, right? We draw heat, so don't be afraid, sit next to one another. This first award that we want to give it is a certificate of appreciation, and I want to give the recipients the opportunity to share, some words with you as well. And this particular one is to a certificate of appreciation to none other than the Department of Health and Human Services Director, Donna Nelson Ivy. Come on up here. You definitely make sure that the information gets out at the local level. So if you're not on our email list, get on that list.
Okay, thanks for the advertising.
And her certificate of appreciation. I need to get my glasses. Certificate of appreciation. This certifies that Donna Nelson Ivy, Department of Health and Human Services, is awarded the Certificate of Appreciation for Kwanzaa Celebration 2015. St. Augustine Presbyterian Church, given at Paterson, New Jersey, December 26, 2015. On behalf of the Honorable Ruby N. Cotton, the 4th Ward Councilwoman that is here.
Thank you.
Y'all can clap.
Check it out. Wait.
When I got this note that
When she
this was
comes
going to
down,
happen
when
this
she get by the
evening,
flag, you tell her to stop.
I was in my
Hold up your
office
room,
and I
take the
was
picture of her
and I
with
said,
the
this is all
flag.
about Sister Grier. I just love her. I appreciate this, and this is very special to me because it's my community, and I appreciate receiving feedback and love from my community. And you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And that's what we should do. And yes, absolutely, we need to do it more and more and more. Not just 7 days out of 1 year. Amen? Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Appreciation from the Honorable Ruby Cotton of the 4th Ward.
Umoja. Good evening. It's a great pleasure and a privilege for me to accept this award. And I would like to thank the Kwanza committee for nominating me for this award. And it's beautiful. This is a beautiful night. And I'm so excited to see so many brothers and sisters here, celebrating unity. And I think that unity is what's going to help us to move the city forward. When we talk about unity, we identify all the people's needs, and we work to help them. And I think, and it's great. And I think that that's what's going to help us to move the city forward. But I would like to accept this award on the name of a great friend, one of my mentors. His name is Kafani. He teach me all about Kwanza. So we put our hands together for our brother, Kafani. He was a great brother. He teach me all about Kwanza. We used to sit in my house and talk for hours and hours about the history, about African American history, Mr. Jimmy. And it's great. And he even told me that on the 1800s, over 8,000 or over 5,000 families from Louisiana, they settled in one section of the island in Dominican Republic, Samaná. And they're still there. And they went there and they put the church and everything there. And the church they used to call Chorcha in Spanish. And they're still there, and the first language is the American English, and it's beautiful, it's amazing. If you ever go, I would like to invite you to go there. It's beautiful, there's so much history there, and it's definitely great. So thank you so very much for this, and God bless me by serving my community. That's my passion, that's what I love to do, and I think that we all need to treat as a brothers and sisters, because that's what we are. We all facing the same issue. We all fighting to make sure to have a better school system in the city, to have a safe city. And that's what we all want to have a better community, quality of life in our city. That's the same issue. We all fighting for that, for those issues. Why not fighting together? Why not doing this together? And that's what I would like to invite each and every one of you to treat us as a brothers and sisters, because that's what we are. Thank you so very much, and have a beautiful night. Thank you.
But it is a token of appreciation, sister, that the community said, we appreciate you. We value you. And this young lady here was nurtured for this work. When I first started learning about culture and everything, I was learning from Mr. Moody and her mother. She was a youngster, but she still remembers it. So this is the Unity Award from the community, Victoria, for you on this hit day. Also, you have a certificate of appreciation from the 4th Ward Councilperson, Ruby Cotton, certificate of appreciation from her office as well. So have a word with the people.
Thank you. Train up a child in the way that they should go. That's all I saw growing up. My mother was a pillar in the community. She believed in the city of Paterson. I am my mother's daughter. Appreciation, something that we lack today. We often give complaints, but very seldom let people know that they're appreciated. And when people are appreciated, they go hard for you. It gives them an incentive to just keep going and keep going. We say we don't want appreciation, but due to our personality and our makeup, we thrive off of that. So today, I appreciate being appreciated.
Minister Irving. Where's that brother at? Yeah. So Minister Irving, he got so tired of the violence that he came out of the church. The senior pastor had to tell him, look now, slow down now. Slow down a minute, go out with the word. Because he wanted to be out there addressing, and that's where they should be at. On the front line, speaking words that bring life to death that's in the neighborhoods. So it's my honor to give the Unity Award to our brother, the young minister, Irvin Jacobs, on behalf of the Kwanza family. Also, the certificate of appreciation from Councilwoman Ruby Cotton as well. We appreciate you, brother, you know, and we notice your work and have a word with you. Thank you. Now, preachers are long-winded, so that's why I got to stand here. I want to get the spirit.
But this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice and be glad. I truly give honor to God this afternoon, who is the head of my life. Honor my pastor, our first lady, my wife, my sister, and my family that have come out here, my Peace Temple family that have come out here to support me on this afternoon. I honor those who are in charge of this event on tonight. And I do want to honor one more person here tonight personally, and that is Brother Bilal Hakeem. Come on, y'all put your hands together. One thing that was brought to my attention about the violence in the city of Paterson many years ago, and I said that, what can I do? And I went to the Lord and I asked God, what can I do to help the city of Paterson as far as the violence were concerned? So I'm reminded on tonight how Dr. Martin Luther King said that he had a dream. He said that it was a dream he rooted in the America dream. He went on to say that he had a dream that one day that little black boys and little white girls would come together and holding hands and walk down the streets as brother and sister and not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And today, I took part in that American dream to try to help the city of Paterson to stay unified as one, to come together as one. That we can get out there and help get one gun off the street a day. Guess what? Our job is done. So today, I thank God for everything that was done. I thank those who were in charge for the award and that I was recognized for the work that God has allowed me to do. I say thank you, and I say God bless you, and heaven smile upon you.
Jimmy Richardson. Also, Jimmy Richardson is receiving a certificate of appreciation. Certificate of appreciation. This certifies that Jimmy Richardson is awarded this certificate of appreciation for Kwanza celebration 2015, St. Augustine Presbyterian Church, given at Paterson, New Jersey, December 26, 2015. The Honorable Ruby M. Cotton, 4th Ward Councilperson, has given this award to him. And you know, it's significant that we be in this here building, because one of the things I learned from this here man, and he can come to the mic as I'm saying this here, is that years ago they had it was called the Colored Man's Hall. Yeah, you know, they called us colored, you know. We are puzzled people from what has happened to us, the psychological impact of slavery. But they met there to organize, to do things, to strengthen the neighborhood and the community. This man has imparted that knowledge. Jimmy Richardson.
Good evening, everybody. The Kwanza Committee and the New Family Foundation, and all those responsible for giving me this wonderful certificate. It really means a lot to me to be recognized by your own. And it really means a lot. But I must say that how I got so, the 5th day of the principles is, and it has to do with purpose. And ladies and gentlemen, I got to tell you that I have been blessed with a scholarship of purpose. And my purpose is to research the history of the African American community in the city of Paterson. And I have been fortunate enough to have found out and identified the birthplace of the African American community in the city. And it is called the African Shore. It is along River Street in the city of Paterson. It no longer exists, and for those who may not know what the word ephemera means, it means there's no buildings or no structures that still exist. But what makes this so significant and so important is the fact that, and I won't be long because tomorrow I'll get a chance to talk more about it. I'll just say this as the final part of that. In 2011, President Obama came to the city of Paterson to survey the damage by Hurricane Irene. Unknown to him, unknown to the governor, unknown to the mayor, and any of the other politicians within that escorting group, none of them knew that The first African-American sitting president was standing on the banks of the African shore. And the African shore in this city is the birthplace of the African-American community. Now, tomorrow, I will explain to you what it is, where it is, and all the other significant parts about it that make it what it is. One last thing about that. I'm in the process of trying to get the Paterson Historic Preservation Commission to make this area either included in the downtown historic district or give us a district of our own, or at least give us a marker. If they can give George Washington a marker for a place where he slept and didn't do anything, he most certainly should give Michigan. A marker for the first African-American sitting president. Ladies and gentlemen, my job is to encourage you to help me give you my best. Thank you. Thank you.
Greetings. How's everybody doing this evening? Give yourselves a big round of applause for coming out. I am so humbled and so honored to be up here among such beautiful people. I had no idea until a couple of days ago that this was happening. I grew up in the city of Paterson, and when I was growing up, it was all about entertainment. Entertainment saved my life. I remember Hispanic Stadium. All the rappers came out, you know, for a big show, and I was right there dancing and singing, and it was all, I mean, that made me feel good. That kept me out of a lot of trouble. So when I decided to follow my dream, I wanted to make sure I give all the children and all the young people in the city of Paterson the same opportunity that I had to dream. So I tell you today, when things seem like it's crazy, because life gets crazy. Life gets crazy. My son was just sent to prison. But I'm here to tell you, keep your dream alive. Don't wait for somebody to plant a dream in you. You keep your own dream alive. And dreams begin when you're young. Don't wait until you get 40, 60, 70 to have a dream. Dreams start now. As adults, we have to show our children that it's never too late, that it's possible, and dreams do come true. And that's why I'm delighted to make my city laugh. So keep laughing and keep smiling. Thank you.
I don't want her to leave without receiving her certificate of appreciation from the councilwoman of the 4th Ward, Ruby and Cotton. This is a certificate of appreciation from, believe me, you make us laugh too. Y'all gotta go check out. Make you laugh, and we need some laugh.
Thank you so much.
I want to say good evening to everyone. And you know, this is our second year that the committee has been doing the Kwanza. The first year I was more involved, but I'm really busy. But like Mr. Ernie Rucker just said, it's unity. And we're here to celebrate the first night. And I feel good because it's in my ward, 4th Ward, 159 Governor Street. Reverend Henry Sater has always opened up his church no matter what to the community. And whatever you needed to have, he will open up his church. And we need to just give him a hand for doing that, opening up his church. Unity is what we need in the community. I just had a Christmas dinner yesterday, and I couldn't have not done it without my partners. I had partners, and I always say we need to have our partners. I had my AKA, I had my Save the Village, I had my Pastor Kid, I had my neighborhood assistant, I had my mature sister, I had Jumpstart, I had the grandparents. You can't do this by yourself. And understand that we need to have unity. Because in order to get things done, we're going to work together. And I have always said we. I've never said I. And we will get things accomplished. But you know what? We can have a great speaker coming. And I remember being involved with the schools, and I always used to come back. Because sometimes we need to get riled up. We need somebody to talk to us to make us change our mind. We need somebody to tell us what we need to be doing in our community. And so like I always say, when I come back from my conventions, and I get fired up. And I want my community to get fired up because we need to get fired up all the time. And we have a great speaker here, Mr. Hamm. He's going to fire you up. And I know because we need that. We need to know that we exist. We need to know that we need to stay together. We need to know that we have unity. Because I think that some communities, some other people may think that we are not united. But we're going to prove them wrong, because we are united. We're going to stay united. And we get ready to have a great speaker come in. I want to thank the Kwanza committee for putting this together. It's not easy, but just for putting this together and for us to support and to see the big crowd that we have out there. And you could have been doing something else, but you chose to let's start the first day of Kwanzaa off to a good start. And we're going to go to the rest of the other Kwanzaa celebrations throughout the city, and they're all over the city. And it's not just in my ward, it's in all wards. So let's just give the Kwanzaa committee a hand for putting this together for us. I have known for a long, long time to bring up our speaker.
It's the tradition during Kwanzaa, which is a 7-day celebration. And each of the 7 days, we observe one of the principles. And during those days, when we greet one another, when we see each other in the street, in the supermarket, the grocery store, the laundromat, the school, the religious institution, the church, the mosque, etc. When you see someone on the first day of Kwanzaa, you give the traditional greeting, which is in the East African language of Kiswahili, habari gani, which means, what's the news? How you doing? Now, normally, if it wasn't Kwanzaa, and I said to you, habari gani, the reply would be, Njema Sante, habari gani. I say, habari gani, what's the news? How are you? You'd say, Njema, fine. Njema Sante, fine, thank you. But during Kwanzaa, when we say habari gani, we reply on the given day with the principle for that day. So today is the 26th, which is the first day of Kwanzaa, and the first principle of Kwanzaa is Umoja. Say it with me, Umoja. Umoja. Say it again, Umoja. Umoja. Unity. Unity. So when I see you and I say habari gani, you would say Umoja habari gani. So let's do it again. Habari gani. Umoja habari gani. Ah, yes, that's good. One more time. Habari gani. Umoja habari gani. Give yourselves a big hand. You learned a little Swahili tonight. My name is Larry Hamm. I am the chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, a grassroots organization which works for racial, social, economic justice and peace, social transformation. And I've been invited here today by this committee, this Kwanzaa committee, which has worked so hard to put this program together. On Thursday, when I was in Berkeley, I got a call from a reporter at the Bergen Record. And the young woman asked me, she said, Mr. Hamm, where is Kwanzaa? I said, Kwanzaa will be at St. Augustine's Church in Paterson, New Jersey, and you better be down there to see a real Kwanzaa celebration. So give this committee a big hand for having a genuine Kwanzaa celebration. In fact, Kwanzaa is being celebrated all over our community. Today, I was at a Kwanzaa celebration in Irvington, New Jersey. We have a youth arm of the People's Organization for Progress called the Popcorn Kids. And the Popcorn Kids had their Kwanzaa celebration in Irvington. Tonight I'm here. And tomorrow there will be a celebration in downtown Newark.
And then the organization I'm with and other organizations that work with us, we're having another celebration. I believe the Lombe Graph Coalition is having a celebration. All over New Jersey, all over this country, and all over the world, people are celebrating Kwanzaa. Did you know that? All over the world, in the Caribbean, in Latin America, in Africa, even in African communities in Europe. And this is something. See, when people are born into a thing, right, they take that thing for granted. But I can remember when there was no Kwanzaa. In fact, just Thursday, the 24th of December, I observed my 62nd birthday. I'm officially a senior citizen now. And this is wonderful because 2 years ago I almost lost my life in an auto accident. I was hit. Have I been here since then? I don't think I've been here. I've been here since then. I was hit by a stolen car. They hit me so hard I had 17 broken ribs, broken hand, collapsed lung, lacerated liver, punctured spleen, fractured vertebrae from my neck down to the lumbar. And the doctors told me I left here not once, twice. They had to bring me back at the scene of the accident, and then when they were operating on me in the hospital at University of Newark, I left here again. But every time I left, I got sent back, so I'm glad to be here with you tonight. This is true. I'm not making this up. Some of y'all visited me at university. I looked so bad people wouldn't even come in the room. I had tubes everywhere, that there were holes for tubes, and when they ran out of holes, they made more holes. Because all this fluid, the impact, and they had to drain it out. And when it was time for me to leave, they said, Mr. Hamm, we can't do anything else for you. I said, I know somebody who can. Let me pray to Almighty God, because what doctors can't do, He can do. When I left that hospital, I couldn't walk. My feet were so swollen with fluid, there wasn't a shoe large enough that I could put on. But I had good friends, people who loved me. Some of you sent cards and flowers and well wishes. And then a young man named Jeffrey Dye came to my house, and he got me every day and took me to the track out there in Elwood Park, Wassesson Park, and walked. I couldn't walk one time around the track. But let me tell you what I did on my 62nd birthday. I went to the Hurl Athletic Field in Glen Ridge, and I ran 3 miles without stopping at the age of 62 years old. This is true. I'm not making this up. It was by the power of God, but it was also the power of love. And this is what the basis of unity is. Unity really is a political expression for love. And the most fundamental principle of love is to what? To love your neighbor as you love yourself. That's such a simple principle, but it seems so hard for us to practice it. If we could just love our neighbor like we love ourselves, it would help us resolve some of the problems in our community.
That's right, that's right.
But see, it's more complex than that, brothers and sisters. The problems that we are facing here in this
country are related to our historical experience here in North America. We have difficulty loving our neighbor because we don't love ourselves. Because we don't love ourselves. Now, you might say, well, I love myself, but I'm not talking about your personal self. I'm talking about your black self. This is the self that many of us do not love today. And how did this happen? We didn't come here on the Carnival cruise line. We didn't come here on the Queen Mary 2. And to be truthful, I hear people lump us in with immigrants. But immigrants are people who travel to a place willingly. We didn't come here willingly. We were stolen from our homeland, forced into the bowels of slave ships, and brought here to North America to be worked like chaff. That's our history. And to do this, but this wasn't the first time that slavery existed. Slavery is almost as old as mankind. But this was the first time that slavery becomes an institution, becomes an industry, and human beings become commodities. See, they didn't take 2 or 3 Africans from the continent. If you read Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, how many of you know about Dr. Du Bois? The greatest intellectual America has ever produced. If you read Dr. Du Bois, the suppression of the West African slave trade, which was his PhD thesis at Harvard University, the first black man or black person, period, to receive a doctoral degree from Harvard, Dr. Du Bois says 100 million Africans were taken out of Africa. To this day, so many people were taken out of Africa that the slave trade is cited as one of the reasons for Africa's historical underdevelopment. Because so many people who could have worked to build up Africa were taken out of Africa and were enslaved. And they were brought here to the United States to do what? To work. To build up this country. Today, the United States of America is one of, if not the richest and most powerful country in the world today. But who made it so rich and who made it so powerful? Black people's labor that was stolen made it a rich and powerful nation. And this slavery, I know some of y'all think you know the whole story and you start to talk about the South. Slavery wasn't just in the South. It was a national institution. Slavery was in Mississippi, but it was also in New York. Slavery was in Alabama, but it was also in Pennsylvania. Slavery was in Florida, but it was also in Delaware. Slavery was in Mississippi, but it was also right here in New Jersey. There were slaves, enslaved people. In fact, you want to know something? The most busy slave port in the United States was not even in the South. It was New York City. That was the busiest slave port in the United States. And Wall Street, the financial center, capital of the world, was built on the auction block, brothers and sisters. And we have to understand this. And I know some of y'all don't want to hear this. You say, he talking that black stuff. You know, some of the people we have to struggle with the most sometimes are the people who are closest to us. But you can't understand what's happening to black people today if you don't understand the historical record. And this is what we have to do, brothers and sisters. We have to go to the historical record. And I'll tell you, you're not going to get it on ABC, NBC, and CBS. You're not going to get it on Cablevision or Optimum or any of that. It's in books, and we need to crack some of these books and start studying our history and lift the veil of ignorance from the eyes of our people. We must study. We must study our history. And I'm going to tell you something. I hear people all the time lament the fact how we are as a people. We're not this and we're not that. I want to tell you something. I stand here today, the descendant of enslaved people, and I'm proud to be a black man in the 21st century in the United States of America. And I'm here to tell you tonight that we are a great people. We are a great people. Stand up, you're great people. Stand up, you're great people. We are a great people. When you study world history and you look at the experience of the enslaved people here in North America, our story rivals any story. And I don't want pastors to take this the wrong way, but our story as a people here in North America is as great a story as any we would read in the Bible, in the Quran, or any other religious text. We would not be here today if we were not the strong people that we are. We were enslaved like animals. We were enslaved. Our names were taken from us. Our identities were taken from us. Our culture was taken from us. Our history was taken from us. This is one of the reasons that we are filled with self-hate today, because everything that made us human was taken from us, and then we were taught to worship other people and other cultures that were not of us. That is the origin of self-hate that exists in our community today. We did not come here with Lawrence Hale. There's nobody that came here with Lawrence Hale. That's a German name. That's a Dutch name. You got German and Dutch and English and even some even have Swedish names. Every European power and every European group and even religious institutions were involved in the slave trade. In fact, the church, the Catholic Church, made the slave trade possible. It blessed the slave trade. It settled the disputes among the colonial powers and told the Portuguese, you can colonize here, and told the English, you can colonize there, and that one can colonize there. And they came up at first with religious rationales about slavery. They said, you know, it's very interesting. The first to be enslaved weren't the Africans. The first to be enslaved were the indigenous people. The native, what we call the Native Americans. They were the first of 200 years, at least, of indigenous slavery. But they couldn't manage them because they lived on the land. They could run away. They had groups that could fight back. Let me tell you something. On his first voyage, Columbus took slaves. And it's so ironic. I am trained as a teacher. I'm a product of public school. I can remember how we sat in October and we would sing that song, Columbus Sailed the Ocean Blue, in 1492. For many weeks he was at sea, sailing ships that numbered 3, and then we would cut out little ships and put them in the windows of the school. So if you drove past the schools, you would see Ninas and Pintas and Santa Marias, and it was just the height of irony that little black and brown children who were in fact the descendants of the indigenous and the Africans were cutting out ships that were slave ships. Columbus took slaves on his first voyage, not the second, not the third, the first voyage. He enslaved the Carib, the Arawak, and the Boricua. Those are the peoples that lived in the Caribbean before the Africans were brought there. And then from the beginning, many of them knew that enslavement was wrong. There were debates. You read the diaries of Bartholomew de las Casas and others, they knew. So they came up with a rationale. They said we shouldn't enslave the indigenous because they are heathens, but they are heathens because they have souls, and we can save them and convert them to Christianity. But we can enslave the African because the African has no soul. This was the doctrine of the church, brothers and sisters. This was the doctrine of the Catholic Church, and then the doctrine of the Protestant Church and all of its denominations. Not one, and I dare anybody to challenge me on this point, not one major religious denomination officially went on record challenging and opposing slavery. It was those crazy Quakers. They were the ones that opposed slavery. The Quakers write the first anti-slavery tract in 1625. I guess you could call them a left-wing group of Christians. You know, they were the first ones to oppose it, but they were almost the only ones. Now, there were people in those churches who opposed slavery, but the churches themselves, as their official policy, did not go on record to oppose slavery. And this is the blight on the record of many of the religious organizations, national denominations. And it's something that must be discussed and must be talked about, because that is one of the roots, one of the ideological roots of racism today. See, racism, as we know it, didn't exist. Once they started enslaving Africans, they had to come up with a rationale. So they developed a theory of superior and inferior races. And therefore it was the white man's birth. Remember that? Used to hear that phrase. It was the white man's birth to bring civilization to these darker races. And we were considered property. And we were considered chattel. But I tell you something. There's something inside of us. We never accepted slavery. We fought it from the beginning. We fought it on the shores of Africa. We fought it on the slave ships. We fought it on the plantations. And we fought it during the Civil War. And we're still fighting. And we won't rest until we put racism and racist theory into the garbage can of history where it belongs. We were taught to hate ourselves. You know what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. We're taught, you still walk around with some of these backward and reactionary ideas. Some of us walk around here still color struck. Still loving that which is not of you. So we were taught to hate ourselves. To hate our color. To hate our features. To hate our hair. I can go and show you, I can get old issues of Ebony magazine and Sepia magazine and show you the ads for skin bleaching to make your skin lighter. It's almost insane. I don't understand. This seems to be a phenomenon that is arising in the Caribbean and in Africa today. than he was 2 years ago. Because they hate their dark skin. I remember when I was a child, they used to walk around all the time pinching our noses to make our noses straight. Am I making this up? No. People looking at me like I'm crazy. Because we didn't want our flat, broad nose. We wanted a long, aquiline nose. That's what they call it. Aquiline nose. We didn't like our hair. Some of us would go to great lengths. We get new now. Oh, I struck a chord. Y'all know about new now? Get that new now. Sometimes that new now was so hard you had to sit it on the stove and let it melt for a little while. Get that new now. We put it in our hair. Then we go and get our mother's stocking. We cut our mother's stocking and tie it in one end. Then we brush our hair with the nunau and pull that stocking cap down. And that stocking cap was so tight when you woke up in the morning, you had a canal running through your forehead. But you wanted that so you could have these waves in your head. Because we didn't want kinky hair. The hair that God gave. I don't understand people talk about praise God, praise God. God gave you that kinky hair. Why are you trying to undo what God did? Why are you trying to undo God? Why God gave you this skin, gave you this hair, gave you these features? Why are you trying to undo what God has done? If we're all made in the image of God, not unless you're teaching a religion that in fact says that some are made in the image of God and some are not made in the image of God. Is it a segregated heaven we're going to go to? Is God white? Does God look like Santa Claus? Long white beard? If I told you right now, close your eyes and tell me what God looks like, what would come to mind? This is the effect of racism, of being taught to hate ourselves. See, you can't impose a system of oppression on people just through force. Force is not enough, because force will lead people to rebel. You can only hit a person so many times before they're going to try and get you back. So you can't whip all day long. And if your slave is your property, you can't beat your dog to death. You can't beat your mule to death. You can't beat your horse to death, or else they can't work. You have to come up with something else, something more sinister, something more subtle. You know, the hand of evil that is the most powerful is the subtle hand. It's the hand that you don't see, or a hand that might appear soft, but really in that hand is the venomous poison of snakes. So you come up with a system, and if you read, I heard somebody mention it, if you read Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro, he'll tell you that if you teach a man that he should come to the back door, eventually if he comes to a house that has no back door, he'll make a back door. It's like lions in the zoo. When you open the gate, they'll come back in the cage. And this, we were taught to hate ourselves, to hate the way we look, and to love the way they look. Now this is not a tirade against all white people. There were white people who were our allies from the beginning. And this is a part of our history that's often not examined. And I think that we would do well to go and study the history of white allies like like John Brown. Now that was a white man I could get down with. John Brown. He was a real freedom fighter. He went into the territory, Kansas. John Brown was fighting in Kansas so hard that they called Kansas Bloody Kansas, because Brown went there and liberated slaves through the force of arms. And this is one of the great lessons that we cannot escape. As much as we all want to build a world without violence, without peace, but we must understand that for 400 years, we prayed for an end to slavery. We petitioned for an end to slavery. We wrote letters for an end to slavery. We had meetings and conferences about ending slavery. We begged for an end to slavery, but finally it took the force of arms to end slavery. And if you don't understand that, you will miss one of the fundamental lessons of American history. You see, it took a civil war to end slavery because more than any other industry, enslavement was the great moneymaker. In 1860, before the Civil War, just before it began, the largest sum of capital, greater than industrial capital and banking capital combined, was the investment in the slave trade, in slavery. And they wasn't giving it up. They wasn't giving it up without a fight. John Brown started the fight just before the Civil War. And then when the war jumped off, the war was not going well. It wasn't going well for Abraham Lincoln. I know y'all like to think of Lincoln as the great emancipator. I know some of y'all refer to Father Abraham. You know, he's kind of like the political version of Santa Claus. But the war wasn't going well. The Union was being defeated by the Confederates with less resources. And finally, people came to Lincoln, people like Charles Sumner, who was a white congressman, and Thaddeus Stevens, but more so, people like Frederick Douglass, and people like Harriet Tubman, came to Lincoln and they said, Lincoln, you need to put arms in the hands of those who have the greatest interest in winning this war. And then Lincoln leaned back and he thought about it. He said, now, you want me to put guns in the hands of the people we have in chains? The people we enslaved? They said, yes. And that's when he, on September 21st, 1862, issues the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation didn't free all slaves. It only freed those who could escape the Union lines. It was a military recruitment document. But people answered the call. 220,000 black men answered the call and joined the Union forces. And it is because of them that the Union defeats the Confederacy. Now here's the upshot of this. Here were black men. Now here's the real irony. Do you know that the black soldiers faced as much racism in the Union Army as they did back on the plantation? Yeah. That they didn't want to pay the black soldiers equal wages. They didn't want to give them guns that worked. They didn't want to, they couldn't even get boots a lot of the time. But you know, them soldiers weren't in the fight just because they wanted to reunite the country. They were in the fight to free their people, and they fought whether or not they received equal wages. And this is the heartbreaking part about it. 60,000 were killed during the Civil War, black. 100,000 wounded, seriously wounded. And we don't even do anything to remember them. And I think when we have these Kwanza of black Civil War soldiers. In a town called Pennington, New Jersey, a little town between Trenton and Princeton. It's a black town. Do you know they have an African, it's called the African Cemetery. And it was called that from the time it was founded. And you know when it was founded? Right after the Civil War. And you know why they founded this cemetery? Because even after they died, the black soldiers couldn't be buried in the same graveyard as the white Union soldiers. They couldn't even be buried in the... This is how segregation was. It was from the cradle beyond the grave. So they bought some land and they established a cemetery, and you should give trips there. Because when they had their gravestones made, they left instructions that what they did should be inscribed on their headstone. So when you go down the line, and I've been there several times, and you read the gravestones, you see cannon master, infantry, gunner. They wanted you to know what they had to do to purchase your freedom. And you walk around here today like you disconnected to the past. You'd be in chains if it wasn't for these black men that laid down their lives. But this is because we don't know our history. And it's an irony because we had a Black Power movement. And out of the Black Power movement came Black Studies programs. Even in New Jersey, they passed something called the Amistad Act. All of y'all should know about the Amistad Act. I was with the author of that legislation today, Assemblyman William Payne. He spoke at our Popcorn Kids Kwanza. The Amistad Act says not only should we have black studies, but black studies should be in every course of study in the school. Every course of study. So if you're taking science, you learn black contributions to science. If you're taking history, you'll learn the black history. And if you're taking whatever drama, the arts, all of them must be diffused with black studies. Passed by the New Jersey State Legislature, signed into law by the governor. But I challenge you who are sitting in these pews tonight to go into the schools of Paterson and show me where they have implemented the Amistad Act. And if you find the schools wanting for not having implemented that act, you should take action. There's a young man, I don't know if he's here tonight, but he lost his job because he tried to stand up for us. I was at home one Sunday afternoon, and I got a telephone call, and he said, "Mr. Hamm," I said, "Yes." He said, "Something terrible is going on at the school I work at." I said, "What is that, young man?" He said, "They put up a Black Studies bulletin board, a Black History Month bulletin board, and on the Black History bulletin board, the only pictures they have are pictures of apes. All kinds of apes, gorillas and orangutans." I said, "Brother, you making this up. This can't be happening in Paterson, New Jersey, with all the black school board members and elected officials that we have, with all the black principals and black teachers that we have, with the black presidents of PTAs that we have, with the black Masons and the black Eastern Stars and the black pastors and the black imams and the black district leaders and the black Democratic Party. Not in gonna send you the pictures. This was this year. This wasn't 10 years ago. This was this year. And he sent me the pictures. And what he said was true. And then he went to the principal and he tried to confront and get the thing taken down. You know what they did? They took him down. He's fired. He's fighting a lawsuit right now because he dared to stand up. This is another part of our history. When we talk about unity, Umoja, unity, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, the community, the nation, and the race. We mouth these things at Kwanza time, but do we practice them all year round? That's what we should be doing. Practice them all year round. And too often, we let those who are willing to stand up for our self-respect, to stand up for our redemption, to stand up for our rights, we let them take the blows alone. If we really about Kwanza, when they stand up, we got to stand up in unity with those who fight for us. I don't know what happened with the billboard. I know what happened to him, because he called me yesterday. I think he may be in the audience. But unity, brothers and sisters, we're not talking about abstract unity. We're not talking about holiday unity. We're not talking about go to church on Sunday unity. We're talking about real unity. Now, real unity is hard. See, people think unity is just getting all us together in the room. That's not unity, that's us all together in the room. Because we all together in the room don't mean we unified. It just means we all sitting in the same place. That's all that means. Unity means trying to get us all on a common accord, working collectively toward a common goal. This is why there are 7 principles. Not just unity, self-determination, Kujitakalia, Ujima, collective work and responsibility, Ujima, cooperative economics, Kuumba, creativity, Nia, purpose, and Imani, faith. You have to practice all of those together to get real unity. 7 equals 1, and 1 equals 7. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I hear you loud and clear, brother.
7 equals 1, and 1 equals 7. You got to practice all 7 to get that 1, to get that unity, to resolve our differences. Look, our people would not have overcome slavery if we were not unified.
That's right.
We were unified. It wasn't no perfect unity. You always got Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas around who want to sell out. Or maybe I should call them Judas. Maybe that would be a better description in the house of God. Because they don't just sell out to sell out. They got to have that 30 pieces of silver. They got to sell out for that Mercedes. They got to sell out for that home in the suburbs. They got to sell out for that 6-figure job. They don't just sell out for themselves out. That's that old Uncle Tom that just sold out because Master said so. The new Uncle Tom, you got to pay me. They'll sell you out quicker than the oppressor will. We got to learn to stand together and fight. Unity is the prerequisite for the struggle against oppression. Any group of people, I don't care if it's a white group, a black group, a yellow group, a red group, any group of people that's oppressed has to have some unity among themselves to overcome their oppression. It's not an unnatural thing. And just because we come together to fight the oppressor does not necessarily mean that we exclude you. Because the ultimate unity is the unity of the family of humanity. We don't live in the world alone. Black people don't exist on this planet. We don't exist in this city alone. We have to learn how to get together and work with each other, and then we have to learn to work with the other peoples that live with us and around us. Because we all have common interests. It took unity to overcome slavery. It took unity to overcome Jim Crow. Because you know what Jim Crow was? That's really an innocuous term. Because you know what Jim Crow was? It was apartheid. You know, people talk about Hitler. Hitler didn't have nothing on what was going on in America. Hitler did not exterminate 500 million indigenous Native Americans. Hitler did not take out of Africa 100 million Africans. I'm not saying what Hitler did in any way. What he did was wrong, but let's understand the dimensions of the crimes that we're talking about. Come on. Because the crimes that have been committed against people of African descent and Native Americans are unparalleled in human history. You can't find this story anywhere else except maybe in Australia with the Aboriginal people who were black and indigenous. The people of New Zealand. You know, our kids see cartoons, right? They see the Tasmanian devil. You remember the Tasmanian devil? Well, Tasmania was a place, and it was a place occupied by black people. And when the Europeans arrived in Tasmania, they exterminated the indigenous Tasmanian people. And this is a case that's before the United Nations today. So we fought against Jim Crow. They said, remember, Wallace stood in the doorway, said segregation now, segregation forever. And they really believed that it would exist forever. But just as we united in slave rebellions and in the Civil War to overcome slavery, we began to organize from the beginning against our re-enslavement, because that's what Jim Crow was, an attempt to re-enslave us. And our people organized in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and many other organizations. And when we remember Dr. King, we should not just remember Dr. King, we should remember all the heroes and heroines of the Civil Rights Movement, because the women made as great a contribution to that movement as did the men. And you know, a word about Dr. King, because I know a lot of us are still having this silly argument about who's better, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. They both were good. And they both were for us. And we can learn from both of them. But let me just say something about Dr. King. Do you know how old he was when the Montgomery bus boycott began? He was 25 years old. Dr. King graduated high school at 15, graduated college at 19, had his degree in the seminary at 22, I believe, and had his PhD by the time he was 26. By the time he became pastor, he was 26 years old. He was 26 when the Montgomery bus boycott began. And do you know that during that boycott, Dr. King's house was bombed twice? Coretta and the children were in the house. Now I want to ask the women in here a question. How many women in here would stay with their husbands if their husbands was doing something that got your house bombed and blown to bits while you and the children were in there? This is why when we remember Martin Luther King, we should remember Coretta Scott King, because she stayed with Dr. King, and she stayed in that struggle. His house was bombed twice. Dr. King was nearly stabbed to death in Harlem. He was stoned in Chicago. He was beaten bloody in Birmingham. He was arrested more than 30 times at 30 different demonstrations. His family was the target of the obsessed Edgar J. Hoover and the FBI. He was spied upon 24, he and his family was spied upon 24 hours a day by the FBI. He received death threats every day for the 12 years. And he was only in, we think of, he was in the civil rights movement a long time, 12 years. 12 years from Montgomery to 1968 when he was assassinated. 12 years. He was the target of plots to take his life. He was not only a target of the FBI, he was the main target of COINTELPRO. Edgar J. Hoover said that Martin Luther King was the most dangerous Negro in America. He was not only the target of FBI surveillance, he was also the target of a unified military intelligence operation called Operation Lantern Spike. And when he was assassinated, his family went to court and proved that his assassination was, in fact, a conspiracy that involved the police, the mafia, and U.S. intelligence organizations. But it didn't stop there. He was standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel when he was shot in the neck. Pronounced dead an hour later. He was shot at 6 o'clock and he was dead at 7 o'clock. But it didn't end there. His brother, A.D. King, his house was bombed. And then he was found dead under mysterious circumstances. They pulled him out of the pool. They said he must have drowned. But when they pumped him, no water came out of his lungs. And he had rings around his neck. And Martin Luther King Sr. said they took both my sons. And then it didn't stop there. On church on Sunday morning, a white man came into the church and shot and killed Alberta Williams King, Martin Luther King's mother. How much does someone have to give before we are willing to give them the respect that they deserve? Dr. King is a hero, and he should be accorded the respect of a hero. I know y'all are getting restless. I'm going to sit down in a minute. But I want to tell you something. It's not enough to have a King holiday. Just like it's not enough to talk about Kwanza for 7 days. We got to practice Kwanza all year round. It's not enough to have a King holiday. I want to know something. I want somebody in this church to stand up tonight and tell me what school, what elementary school, what junior high school, what middle school, what charter school, what high school has any one of Dr. King's books as required reading as a part of the curriculum. Somebody come up here and tell me it's your school. Right here, come on. Tell me, how can we have a holiday for a man and our children are not even knowing the ideas that he stood for? I'd rather keep the schools open than have a holiday that means nothing. So I challenge you. You think I came in here tonight us. We have to liberate ourselves. And in the process of trying to bring about a revolutionary transformation in America, we must also bring about the revolutionary transformation of ourselves. We must become, to build a new society, we must become new people. How can the old people build a new society? It's a contradiction. We must become new people with new habits, new practices that will in fact enable us to bring about the change that we wanted. And Dr. King's labor and the labor of all of those who died during the civil rights movement, black and white, was not in vain. Most of you Negroes in here got college degrees because of the Civil Rights Act. You walk around here all puffed up. I went to this college and I went to that college. All of them was segregated. Most of these colleges, including Rutgers University, didn't even take black people. The Civil Rights Act took the benefits that were only part of the GI Bill and extended them to the rest of young people in the society. The Voting Rights Act gave us power to put in place elected officials. Most of them walk around here today like they did it all by themselves. Negro, if it wasn't for the civil rights movement, you wouldn't be the councilman, you wouldn't be the mayor, you wouldn't be the senator, you wouldn't be the U.S. senator, you wouldn't be the congressman. Little bitty people that didn't have a whole lot of money, that didn't have no money. Some of them were sharecroppers. They're the ones who participated in those civil rights demonstrations. They were the ones who participated in the protests. They were the ones that marched on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. They were the ones that got their heads split open by the police. And you won't even remember them. Don't just remember Rosa Parks, remember all the heroes. Let's talk about Sister Fannie Lou Hamer too, not just Rosa Parks. Let's talk about Sister Claudette Colvin, not just Rosa Parks. Let's talk about Sister Ella Baker, not just Rosa Parks. Let's talk about Joanne Robinson, not just Rosa Parks. You wouldn't know this if you knew your history. Turn off the TV. Or turn it to something that will give you some knowledge. How can you change the world? I had a teacher, he was white. His name was Mr. Pomeroso at South 17th Street School. He was my health teacher. And he was paralyzed on one arm. He used to walk. I guess he had a stroke. And Mr. Pomeroso told me in 1966, he said, television will make you dumber. He said that in 1966. Now you know what the real contradiction is? That the person in America who created television, I believe his name was Farnsworth, actually envisioned it as a tool that would liberate mankind. That in fact would bring knowledge to people who were ignorant. But what they have done is taken this magnificent invention and made it a crass tool of commercialization. Because all it is right now is a vehicle to sell you more stuff that you don't need. And to teach you things that can't do you any good. We watch too much television, and our children watch too much television. And don't just go in there and turn the TV off, that's not enough. You got to sit in front of your child with a book open if you want them to open a book sometime. You got to do it too, because that's how children learn. You want the kids to do something that you didn't do and don't do now. You want that old saying, do as I say, not as I do. But we overcame segregation. Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, the Higher Education Act, these things made a better life possible for some. But the masses of our people are still catching hell today in the 21st century. Black people are in worse shape in 2000 we were in 1968 when Dr. King was assassinated. And it's time for us to build some unity, to pick up where Dr. King left off. Yes, we got to work on this problem of crime in our community. We should not be killing each other in the numbers that we're doing. We're doing the Klan's work for them. They don't need no Ku Klux Klan to come up here. We killing 100 a year in almost every city. More black youth are dying on the streets of our cities than soldiers have died in Iraq and Afghanistan. So we have to stop the violence in our community. But brothers and sisters, in addition to having our anti-violence activities, we've got to change a system that makes people violent. Like, somebody show me where the gun manufacturing factory is in Paterson. They don't make guns in Paterson. They don't make them in Newark. They don't make them in Camden. They don't make them in New York. These factories are somewhere out west or maybe overseas. Show me where the poppy fields are in Paterson. Is anybody growing poppies? No. These things are brought into our community by outside forces. And instead of sending people to Afghanistan and Iraq, we need to send them out there on 95 to keep these guns from coming up the turnpike into our community and keep these drugs from flowing into our community. It's no mistake. We didn't have this level of drug addiction in 1966. In 66, we only had 100,000 black men in prison. Do you know that today, 1 out of every 8 prisoners in the entire world is African American? Did you know that? 25% of the world's prisoners are in U.S. prisons. But this is not an accident. After our uprising during the 60s, they said, well, we got to do something to stop this movement. So what began to happen? We always had drug problems, but they began to bring drugs in massive amounts. The drugs were coming in from Vietnam. Do you know that? Do you know where the Golden Triangle is? Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia? That during the Vietnam War, that's when the heroin epidemic was at its height. Because the war was a vehicle to bring drugs into the country. And the same thing that happened with Vietnam happened with Afghanistan. Before the invasion of Afghanistan, opium production was declining. Once we started that war, they started growing the opium fields again. And that opium found its way to the streets of Paterson and Newark and other cities. And in fact, when they couldn't do it indirectly, they got directly involved. Oliver North and the CIA imported drugs into Los Angeles to pay for the war against the Nicaraguan Contras, and this is a matter of record. See, these problems, a lot of us just think on the individual level, and the individual is a part of it. If you beat your woman, that's wrong, and you need to stop it. If you disrespecting your people, you need to stop it. If you stealing from your people, you need to stop it. If you shooting and killing, you need to stop those things, yes. But we have to get to where Dr. King was at the time of his assassination. Dr. King said we needed a radical transformation of our socioeconomic system. These are his words, I'm quoting. He said we need a radical redistribution of power and wealth, because you see, wherever you have poverty, you're going to have crime. And the more poverty you have, the more crime you're going to have. So until we really solve the question of poverty, we are not going to solve the question of crime in our community. And I know that some of you have a hard time hearing that message, but I'm 62 years old. So I speak like an elder now. I'm 62. I grew up on Ridgewood Avenue in Newark. How many of y'all know what Ridgewood is? How many of y'all old enough to remember the Ridgewood Bar that was on the corner of Ridgewood neighborhood? I lived next to the Ridgewood Bar. I I live in number 5 Ridgewood Avenue. I grew up, I couldn't get out my doorstep without people being laid out for alcohol. They just laying in the street, drunk out of their minds. They would come to our stoop first and just lay there. I had to step over them to get out the house. And now, I've seen over the years the situation go from alcohol to heroin to crack. These problems continue to move. You think this is a new problem? Go and read, so you got to read. Yes. Read W.E.B. Du Bois, the Philadelphia Negro that he wrote at the beginning of the 20th century. And he talks about the problem of crime and drugs and alcohol in our community. Then come forward 50 years and read St. Clair Drake, Black Metropolis, about Chicago. And he's talking about these problems of drugs, crime, and violence. Then come forward 20 more years to 1960 to Dr. Kenneth Clark Gardner. And he's talking about the problems. These are not new problems. These are problems that follow us because of our oppressed condition in this society. And it's time that I call upon the young people who are in this room tonight. It's time for a new generation of young freedom fighters to stand up and do what you can to end the system of oppression of our people. We got the Black Lives Matter movement. Everybody says, well, the youth are apathetic. The youth are apathetic. Then when the youth get in the street, all the youth need to calm down. The youth need to calm down. No, let these young people do what they feel they need to do to fight against racism. Black life does matter. That is a message that we should live. And if we all thought Black life mattered, maybe we would fight harder against the system of oppression. We got to build a movement, brothers and sisters, a unity movement. A unity movement for the 21st century that includes all the oppressed and all the exploited. See, this is where Dr. King was in 1968. When he was assassinated, he wasn't in an office in Washington, D.C. He was in the streets of Memphis with the sanitation workers. And he was organizing a poor people's movement to transform this country. And we got to pick up where Dr. King left off. Let me tell you something. There's enough wealth in this society to end the problem of homelessness and provide decent housing for everyone in this society. Let me tell you something else. There's enough wealth in this country to provide every person, not just with $15 an hour, but to provide every person a job with a living wage. They did it once before, during the Great Depression. Roosevelt put 11 million people back to work in 36 months. What we don't have is the will. There's enough wealth in this country. Why should parents have to mortgage their homes 2 and 3 times just to get their kids through college? There's enough wealth in this country to provide free college education for every young people that can desire to go to school. The wealth is there. What we have to do is put together the unity and the will. I was in the hospital. When I came out of the hospital, my hospital bills were $50,000, $60,000. Why are we the only advanced industrial nation on the face of the earth that doesn't have universal health care? We should have universal Medicare for all health care in the United States of America. People shouldn't even have to worry about going to see a doctor or a dentist. But this requires unity and it requires resistance. And I tell you, we took the struggle out of the street. We got to bring this struggle back into the street. And the struggle is not complete unless we deal with the issue of the mass incarceration of black people in the United States of America. It's criminal. It's criminal that we are 13% of the population, and yet over 50% of the federal prison population. 70% of the state prison population is black and Latino people in this state, and that's replicated across the United States. We need to change that. Do you know one thing? Here's something for you. Do you know that every 3 days, someone is exonerated in the United States for a crime that they did not commit? Do you know how many black people have gone to jail for crimes that they did not commit, for murder and for rape and for all kinds of other crimes that we did not commit? Now, maybe you'll believe it because you see it in the headlines. They just released a brother that was in there for 24 years for rape. And the woman said, well, they said, well, how do you know he raped you? She said, because I dreamed it. That brother spent 24 years in jail. Most black people who committed nonviolent offenses shouldn't even be in jail. Shouldn't even be in jail. And we need to change our criminal justice system. We need to deal with this issue of police brutality. They should not be shooting our people down in the streets unarmed like dogs. That is wrong, and we need to stand up and say so, brothers and sisters. And you shouldn't wait for it to happen in your community. When they killed Sandra Bland, there should have been Sandra Bland demonstrations all over. When they killed Michael Brown, should have been Michael Brown there. Look, if we can demonstrate for the end of apartheid in South Africa, which is 3,000 miles away, we should be able to stand up for black people who are being killed right across the river in New York City or right across the road in Newark, New Jersey. We got to, that's right here in Paterson, New Jersey. We got to end this problem of police brutality. I'm going to say this last thing and sit down. Y'all shouldn't invite me unless you're ready for a long talk, because I'm long-winded. I'd rather not be invited if I can't say everything I got to say. And if you're scared I'm going to say something that will upset some people, don't invite me. I won't mind it. I'm not running for office. I'm going to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm not going to tell you what's the wrong with here just so you can elect me. See, that's why I don't understand why more of our Christian brothers and sisters are not in the movement, because a lot of this is in the Bible. In the Bible, you had kings. The kings did what was expedient. They did what they had to do to preserve their power and to preserve their nation. But in addition to kings, you had prophets. And the prophets would chastise the king. And the prophets were usually poor. They wore goat skin and they ate locusts and honey, because they weren't going to get meat from the king's table, because they weren't going to tell the king what he wanted to hear. We need some 21st century prophets who are ready to speak the truth without worrying about whether they're going to get meat from the king's table, without worrying about whether they're going to cut my grand off, how they're going to close my daycare center. We need truth tellers in the prophetic tradition. That's why they had to kill Martin Luther King. That's why they had to kill Malcolm X, because they were in the prophetic tradition. That's why they had to kill Nat Turner, because they told the unvarnished, unfettered, unfiltered truth. And that's what we need today, brothers and sisters. And lastly on our agenda, we need reparations. Black people should be paid for the 400 years of free labor that we gave to this country. And they weren't going to do it. They were going to do it. Lincoln knew it had to be done. Thaddeus Stevens proposed Bill H.R. 29 in 1865 that would give 40 acres and $50 to every freedman that fought in the Civil War or his survivor. 40 acres and $50. The mule came later. They would give the mule, because if you didn't have a mule, you couldn't do nothing with no land. So the mule came later, but the original bill said 40 acres and $50. This is why if you go down down south and you get around white people, and I wouldn't recommend that you do this. You mentioned the name of General Sherman. They hate Sherman. They hate Grant, and they hate Sherman. And Grant is a president you need to know more about. See, the establishment historians vilified Grant. They said he was a drunkard and this and that. But it was under Grant, not Lincoln, under Grant, that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed. That the Civil Rights Act of that period was passed. It was under Grant, as supreme commander of the Union forces, that he appointed a man named Tecumseh Sherman. Yeah, the Indian is a white man with an Indian name. And he said that he was going to show the South the meaning of rebellion. And he burned his way all the way down south. He taught them what it would mean. And when he got to South Carolina, he met with some black people, some black preachers, as a matter of fact. And Sherman asked him, said, well, what can we do to right your situation? And the black preacher said, we need land. Our people need land. So General Sherman issued on January 15th, 1864, he issues General Order number 15. And with the stroke of a pen, he confiscated the land of the slave owners and redistributed to the slaves. 400, see, those are the white people they don't teach you about. See, you need to know about the white John Brown and the white that comes to John. I don't even know if Sherman, see, I don't want to build them up and make them into something they might not be. I don't even know if they like black people. But that doesn't matter. If you're going to give me the land I need, it don't matter whether you like me or not. Issued General Order number 15, which immediately confiscated 30,000 acres of land in South Carolina. And on the basis of General Order number 15, they put in legislation to confiscate 400,000 acres of land and redistribute that to black people. And that bill that did it, H.R. 29, was passed in the House and the Senate. But then something mysterious happened. Something mysterious happened. Was the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And I believe to this day that it was not an accident, nor was it the act of one deranged man, John Wilkes Booth. I want to tell you something about John Wilkes Booth. Before there was a North and the South, there was just one federal army. They sent soldiers after John Brown, who was leading the crew of the federal soldiers, someone named Robert E. Lee, who had gone to West Point with Ulysses Grant. And then when they went to hang John Brown, who was in the guard? John Wilkes Booth was a soldier in the guard to guard the hangman's platform. Booth assassinates Lincoln, and Lincoln's Vice President Andrew Johnson, who was a Southern sympathizer, comes to power. And what is his first act? His first act is to veto H.R. 29, and his second act is to issue writs to return the confiscated land back to the slave masters. But I tell you, brothers and sisters, in this country there have been reparations to Native Americans. They received land. There's been reparations to the Japanese that was given recently for their internment in concentration camps. The U.S. has given money for reparations for crimes that it wasn't even involved in the enslavement of Jews in Europe during World War II. If all these people can receive reparations, then the descendants of Africans enslaved in this country must also receive reparations. So we need an agenda. We need unity. We need you to go out and vote in record numbers. Don't get fooled into being apathetic. See, everybody went out in record numbers and voted the next year, and what did y'all get? Christie. Because you went to sleep. If you had come out and voted, Christie wouldn't have been the governor. And he wouldn't be messing with people's pensions, and messing with school funding and all that stuff. You got this, you're going to see how much this election means. Because what we see coming out of the Republican Party is fascism, not racism, fascism. They get ready for something you couldn't have even imagined 40 years ago. But we can turn it around. It's not hopeless. If we put our differences aside, put your differences aside, and come together on one accord and prevent this fascist takeover of the U.S. government by the electoral system next November. And then don't stop there. Use the ballot box. Use the power of your dollar. We should boycott businesses that don't hire black people. We should boycott governments that don't give contracts to minority businesses. Use your vote. Use your dollars. And most of all, use your feet. We need to pour out into the streets in record numbers. We're calling a demonstration on Dr. King's real birthday in Newark, New Jersey on January 15th. If there was ever a time that we needed to march, now is the time. We need to march together on January 15th in Newark, New Jersey, and we need to keep marching. We need to march not only in Washington, we need to march right here in our own community. That's right. We need to get this struggle going and get it back out in the street, and then you'll see some action. Power to the people. Thank you.